Hi there and welcome to JCB Tools. My name's Adrian and today we're going to look at this pressure washer. Now this is the larger model, the JCB-PW15040P. So I'm going to open the box, put the contents on the table so you can see exactly what you get. So everything's on the table now, and as you can see we've got the main pressure washer unit itself, the main body of the machine. Again, I've just placed it on the front here, the pressure hose. So two pieces for this. We have the pressure lance, the two wheels, a bag of associated fittings we're going to need for assembly. Here we have a bag with the inlet and outlet, so the little different coloured tips and the inlet fitting. The unit does come with its own spark plug box spanner, and again we have the user manuals. Now on this machine we do have a manual that refers specifically to the pump. Obviously we have a manual that refers to the pressure washer and the in-use for that. And finally we have an engine manual as well. So we've got it pretty much all covered on the manual front. Final part of the puzzle, we have the upper handle. So we are going to go through the assembly of this, but honestly there isn't a lot to do. So I've just gone into the parts bag and pulled out these components. So we've got the two stub axles here, 4 large washers, 2 large nuts and 2 R-clips. That's what we're going to need to fit the wheels. So the first thing I'm going to do is fit the stub axle. As you can see, it's got a hole here that the R-clip passes through and another hole in the frame. So if I just insert the stub axle in from the outside, line up the holes in the frame, you can see down through the hole, fit the R-clip. That's the stub axle fitted. Fit one of the washers. Again, one of the wheels now. Now it doesn't matter which way round the wheels go on this model. So I'll just fit the wheel into position. Again, another washer. And then I'll just hand fit that nylock nut. Now I am going to need a spanner for this. The R-clip will stop the spindle rotating. I'm going to take, in this case I've got an adjustable spanner. Okay, so just wind the nut on. And I'll keep going, there we are, we're through the nylon, until it stops. Okay, then I'll go back one flat. If I left it completely wound in, it would lock the wheel, but as you can see, the wheel now still spins. I'll just repeat the exact same operation on the other side. So I'm going to fit the handle next, so 2 of the large bolts, there is a big difference, these are the larger bolts out of the bag, and 2 of the black hand wheels. So I've got those at the ready, and I can fit the handle now onto the frame, just locate each side evenly down into position. So I can take a bolt now from the inside towards the out, just locate the bolt head in the little hexagon pocket, that'll stop it turning, and then I can fit one of the black hand wheels. So it's so simple, and I'll do exactly the same on the other side. Okay, so all that's left in the bag are these 6 bolts, 6 nuts, various washers, and these 3 brackets. So you'll notice that there's a large, medium and small. So the one that fits on the upper handle is the medium bracket. So I'll take the medium bracket and show you how it's fitted. So obviously this bracket can go 2 ways, but we want it pointing upwards. So I fitted a washer on one bolt first, pass it through the hole. I have another bolt with a washer on, pass it through the hole, and then I'll just take a washer on the inside and fit one of the nuts on the inside, just put them hand tight for the time being. Okay, so you're going to need a pair of 10mm spanners. In this case I've got a 10mm socket and a 10mm spanner, so I'm just going to tighten up these 2 bolts. Okay, so I've taken the smallest of the 3 brackets now, bolt with a washer on first, line it up, find the hole, there we are. Second bolt with a washer already fitted. Same procedure as you've just seen me do on the top bracket. So again, on the inside, nut and washer, and then tighten them up with a 10mm socket and the 10mm spanner. So you've seen it all before, largest bracket now on the opposite side of the machine. Bolt through the holes, same procedure again. So the front of the machine does have these little location points here to keep your tips secure so you don't lose them. And again, Finally, that's the black nozzle for use with detergent. Detergent won't draw if you use any of the smaller tips. On the pump itself is the inlet pipe connector. So your typical garden hose connector would click onto here and you can use it on the pump. I will draw to your attention, there's a little gauze filter in here. This can get blocked if you've got a dirty or contaminated water source. So if your pump stops working or isn't working efficiently, you can check this filter. So I'll just hold this fitting. I can screw it in conventionally, turn the nut. It does seal on that rubber. There we are. That's tight enough. That's the inlet fitting fitted. So you'll see here on the pump this detergent pickup hose. So if you're using the black tip in the lance, this would be the pickup. So this hose can be fitted into your 5-litre drum of detergent, whatever you happen to be using, and detergent will draw through and come out with the water stream. So that's how you use it in detergent mode. So your pressure washer comes with a 2-part lance. This fitting on the end here is where the tips fit. This screw fitting is where the 2 halves of the lance join. So firm push, turn the little ferrule down until it's locked, and then you can pull the rubber bush just over that nut. That's how to connect the 2 halves. And obviously for transport, wind it the other way, and it's easy to take back apart again. So on the end of the lance you have the quick release fitting. If I just take one of the tips, I'll take the 25-degree tip, pull back on the sleeve, fit the tip, release the sleeve, and that tip is now locked. When you're changing tips, always switch off the pressure washer and relieve any pressure out of the system before changing tips. If you're going to be fitting it with pressure in the system, you could inject your finger basically with water through the end of the tip, so make sure there's no pressure in the system when you're cleaning tips. To remove, pull back the sleeve, remove the tip, and we can swap between them quite easily. Okay, so that's fitting the tips. So the pump has exactly the same system. A sleeve on the pump, make sure you're all turned off and there's no pressure in the system. Pull back the sleeve, fit the fitting, that's it, it's in position. Again, shut down the system to remove it, let any pressure go via the lance, pull the sleeve back, and it can be removed. So the other end of the hose, again, has the identical quick release fitting. Pull back on the sleeve to fit the gun, release the sleeve, and the gun is fitted. And again, to disconnect anything, switch off the machine, switch the engine off. Again, relieve any pressure out of the system, ideally turn off the water supply. Once all the pressure is gone, that's the point where you can remove any fittings. So, hose stores there on the large bracket, and the lance will store there on the 2 brackets we fitted earlier. So that's the assembly completed. All we need to do now is to fit oil and fuel into the machine, and then we'll move on and I'll show you the controls. So obviously this label shows the engine is shipped without oil and fuel, and we do need to look at the breather cap in the pump as well. We'll move on to that next. So to fit engine oil, I'll take that label off. We can unscrew the dipstick. So what we need to do, it does have an actual dipper, but the ideal oil level would be to fill it up until oil is at this level here. So right up to the weir point of the hole. Make sure that the machine is on level ground, it's all nice and level, and then slowly top it up until oil reaches this weir point, and the weir point being at which it starts to drip back out again. Once we got it to that level, we can screw the filler plug back in again. Now there is a filler plug identical to this on the other side. They both do the same thing for different applications. This one's easier to get to on this particular machine. So as you'll see on top of the pump here, we have this little bag. Now this is the breather plug that needs to be fitted for use. If I just take it off, you'll see this red plug in the top of the pump. We need to just remove that red plug. I may need to get my spanner for this. Okay, loosened it off, and I can remove this. So this is a transit plug. The pump does come with oil in it, and obviously if the box is tipped over or upside down, we don't want a breather plug fitted so that it loses oil. So this does have a dipstick on, and it's a breathing plug. I can just fit the breather plug down into the pump. It does have a little rubber O-ring, and I can screw it down securely. I would recommend you keep hold of the blanking plug. We'll keep that safe, just in case we need to transport it at any time in the future and we're worried about it tipping over. So to fill with fuel, here's the filler cap, anti-clockwise, and you can remove the filler cap, and as you can see it's tethered by this chain. So when filling with fuel, make sure you're in a well ventilated area. Make sure that the engine is cold. We don't want to be refilling it when we've got a hot exhaust. So once it's cold is the point where you can refill. When filling it up, make sure you use fresh unleaded fuel and don't fill it any higher than this red ring level here. That's the fill point. Leave some room for the fuel to expand. It's probably about an inch or 25 millimeters below the top surface. Once you're done, if you do spill any fuel, make sure you give it plenty of time to evaporate or you wipe up any excess. And the cap will click when it's tight. That's all you need to do. Obviously, you can unscrew it again, screw it down firmly, and there we are. That's a tight cap. Let's look at the controls. So the main on-off switch, fairly self-evident on the side of the machine here. That's off, and that would be on. When you come to stop the machine, push it down, it kills the spark, switches the machine off. And again, here is the recoil handle that you need to pull to start the engine. So 3 more controls. First of all, we have the fuel tap. So this would be the off position. To the right turns the fuel on. Whenever you're transporting the machine around, whether it be in the back of your van or what have you, always make sure when you finish using it to turn the fuel to the left, the off position. So we would need the fuel on for use. So the next lever up is the choke lever. So this is choke off, or the run position. To start from a cold start, push it to the left, which is the choke on position. That's the cold starting position. Once the engine has started, push it back to the right. So the third lever here is the throttle lever. So this would be the lowest revs or idle. Fully to the left would be maximum RPM or the run position for maximum power. So when starting, fully to the left. So before we think about starting the engine, we need to purge air out of the pump. This is important as it's a water-cooled pump, so we need to make sure that the complete system is full of water before we start the engine. So connect up your hose pipe here on the quick release connector, turn on the water flow at your tap, and that will pull through to the pump. Then we need to pull the trigger on the lance. Obviously I would have the high pressure hose connected until all air is purged out of the system. You can pretty much tell, you won't be able to hear any bubbling, and it'll be a single stream of water just at mains pressure coming out of the end of the lance. Once this is done, we can then think about starting the engine. So quick checklist before we start the engine. We've put engine oil in, we put the breather plug in, we have petrol, our fuel tap is on, our choke is on, and we've set the throttle to maximum. Now it's time to pull the recoil, and we've got it switched on the engine. When we pull the recoil, we must pull the trigger on the lance. So this relieves any pressure that the recoil is trying to achieve. We don't want to be trying to achieve high pressures with the recoil. The engine is there for that. So we simply pull the trigger, pull it with the recoil, and the engine starts. Once the engine has started up, we can release the trigger. The pump will automatically unload the pressure, so it'll recirculate. Then we can turn the choke off on the engine, at which point the engine will be running sweetly and we're ready to run. So when we want to switch off the pressure washer, we can reduce the RPM with the throttle lever. Once the RPM has dropped, we can then switch off on the main on-off switch. Once the engine has stopped, pull the trigger and relieve any pressure out of the system. We can then switch off at the tap. We can remove any water again, and that's the point at which we can disconnect any fittings or change tips. Well, if you watched the video this far, there's a good chance that you bought one of these, so congratulations on your purchase. It really is a great bit of kit. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit jcbtools.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and enjoy your pressure washer.